Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scuttlebutt, the War Movie Review Podcast. To mark the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Midway, we're taking a look at the 2019 film Midway, which depicts the epic battle of the same name. As always, I'm joined by Mike A,
Yo.
Mike B,
Yep.
and Nathan the Viking. So guys, what do you think?
There we go.
That's great. That's great.
That's what Nate thinks about it.
I'm keeping both of those in. You can't cut them out.
That's
I did it.
fine.
Yeah, I did it through the intro, so you can't cut it out. So, yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Very professional. Very, very professional.
Seltzer water does miracles, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't think Mike has started off by giving his
Oh,
opinion
that's right.
first.
He doesn't
Yeah,
want to
so
start, so I know he loved this movie.
Do you want to
so-
start, Mike?
I can. Yes, I can.
I mean, if you want a second, Mike, I can jump into it real quick. Mine's very fast.
Oh god.
So you're saying you want to go first?
I mean,
or you want me to
I've
just-
never gone. Have I ever gone first?
I thought
don't
you did
know.
last time, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, so I sat through this not too long ago, a couple hours ago, and watched this. And I actually, it was funny because I didn't realize that I had seen clips on YouTube from this film, and it was fun, and that's why I remembered that I never wanted to watch this film.
Mm-hmm.
Not putting any bias in there, but like I was just like, okay, well, if this is how it's going to be, I never want to watch it. So I did today, and okay. First of all, the acting was absolute horseshit. I mean,
Yes.
For the pearl.
no. Here's the thing: is like if 50% of the actors are actually acting well, I won't say that to open up a fucking a podcast. The acting was horseshit. It was so just disingenuous. It was so lazy, and it really was. Because I've seen good acting, and this was not it. And the writing, just as to blame for being shitty as the acting. The writing was fucking awful. It's what people who have never been in the military, never actually researched historical events, never talked to people who were there. It's what they would write to make it sound like this and something that the American people would want to see, right? As far as historic events, I will be completely honest with you. I know the very macro level of the Battle of Midway. I don't know the details. I don't know exactly who hit who, when, and what day. I know it happened. I know that it was a very decisive victory by the Americans because they were able to intercept messages from the Japanese and get there before they did, and then kind of set a trap. They sustained heavy losses, but anyway, the Battle of Midway was like the first American victory, basically in the Pacific theater
Oh, the war.
in World War II. What?
You
Yeah,
didn't say
in
the
the
war,
war
to be
because
honest,
it was
yeah.
before Operation Torch.
Mhm.
Yes, and so I know that, but like, it was okay. I'll wrap this up by saying it was just another action film. That's all it was, and so you combine shitty acting, shitty writing, a lot of CGI, which was not the best. It was not the worst either. It was okay, but like you combine that with just it being an action film. It's like, what are you doing? Why aren't you trying to tell a story? You're just trying to make it an action film. So that's my opening statements.
It's Fast and Furious, but World War II.
Yeah. So I want to. Yes, I completely agree with everything Mike said. Well, to start what you were saying, Mike, about how the shitty writing and all that stuff. I was watching this last night, and I was laughing because I was just so like dumbfounded that a movie would be made this year. I'd messaged Brian while I was watching. I said, I feel like I'm watching a movie from the 1950s made today. Like that's what it feels like.
You
know?
summed
I'm
it up
just like-
so well too.
Right,
You know,
I'm just like,
like-
it feels like a movie from the 50s being made today. Like it
The U.S. Army presents.
Pork Chop
Right,
Hill
yeah.
with CGI.
Right, yeah, I'm just like, oh my god. And but yeah, it's of course everyone. It's funny. Anytime I like talk shit about this movie, which I did without even watching it because I knew already what it was without watching it. But I actually did watch the whole thing last night. But anytime I would talk shit about it and be like, oh man, I don't want to see that horse shit. And everyone would say, well, what do you expect? It's a Roland Emmerich film. It's like, yeah, Roland Emmerich made Independence Day. So, of course, the movie feels like Independence Day, and he also made The Patriot, a bunch of other bombastic horse shit.
Action films.
Action films, yes. But oh my God, I was watching it, and it was like I was the whole time. I mean, it's called Midway, and there's so little of Midway in it. The movie wants to cover so much, and from what I understand, the historical stuff is actually like it's surface level accurate. They get a lot of the dates and the people's names right, and the battles, what happened, and such.
Yep.
But there's there's so much going on, and there's no narrative to bind it all together. It's just like it's all of this separate shit happening, like the Doolittle raid, and oh God, what else? Well, Pearl Harbor is the first thing it shows. Then the Doolittle raid, and then the Coral Sea, and it's just like there's no narrative to bind it all together. So the movie feels like it's 17 hours long, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just shit happening. And yeah, it's and like you said, Mike, terrible acting. And there's good actors in this movie. There's Woody Harrelson, and
Yep.
The one I got the most amusement from was Dennis Quaid. Every time it cuts to him, he's just like, "Oh, I love those boys," and I'm just like, "Oh my God, dude, what's going on here?"
Goddamn rash.
Yeah, he's just like, but the biggest surprise was one of the Jonas Brothers in it. And when I say surprise, not that he was a good actor, it was just like, why is this guy in this movie? Every time it cut to him, it was like awkward and embarrassing. And I was like, why? I theorized that they actually shot more stuff with him, but they cut like 90% of it out because he was just such an awful actor. Because it seemed like, why is he even on the poster? Like, why is he a character at all in this?
Because it's a Jonas Brother. That's why.
What?
It sells the film.
It sells the film.
That's why.
Sells the film to the youth of 2009. Yeah.
Well, to counter or to add on to that, it's a PG-13 rating movie.
Okay, so therein brings in my next point.
To bring in the younger audience, we're tying in the conspiracy of the Jonas Brothers and a PG-13 movie, dude.
Right.
They
going
wanted
one
the
direction
kid
here,
money.
guys.
They wanted the kid money,
But
Mike.
that's-
What don't you understand?
I understand. I just don't like it. But
Well, hey,
Fast
Mike,
and
really
Furious,
quick, really
World War
quick.
II, Jonas Brothers, and a PG-13 rating? Are you insane? Do
Really
you
quick,
know how
Mike and
much
Nate-
money it's going to make?
what's up, Mike?
Mike and Nate, do you know how 5 guys walk?
Oh, Nate. Oh, God.
I'm all right. There we go.
I guess Nate does.
It caught me off guard.
But it's relevant to the
Making a
movie
movie
because- okay,
here,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, speaking of that, Brian, what you just did there, holy shit! Like everyone's got the most over-the-top New Jersey accent in this movie.
Well, except for the yokel,
Right.
where I think his job is only to be like, "What is that guy doing?" That's
Yeah.
not that kind. It's like the only fucking time that guy's in the movie is like pointing out something totally obvious. It's
Right,
like,
right.
what the fuck?
so
you know,
I've been talking too long. Nate, sorry, Brian, you go for it.
Nate, Brian. So yeah, just to put
know.
my few cents in, first off, everything that depicted in the movie happened in reality. Even the crazy shit of like the 2 pilots that got taken aboard the Jap cruiser, and that happened. That's like I have a really good book actually read about this called
Clean up on aisle 3.
Sorry, I fucked
No
up
worries.
while Brian was talking. My microphone fell over while I was drinking my coffee.
Nice. As long as it didn't fall into your coffee.
Yeah, sorry. Go
But-
ahead, Brian.
But yeah, no, all the events did happen. It was very real, and it was cool going into this because I love the original Midway. I think it's really good, and it tells the story of the battle. And I read a lot about Midway. I know a good deal about the battle. And to sum it up, basically, the whole war in the Pacific changed in 5 minutes because one of the most advantageous things you do with carriers is you group your carriers so you can get a huge, air arm to attack a target. It's how the Japanese were able to basically destroy Pearl Harbor. But it's also the most dangerous thing you could do because when the enemy fleet finds you and they send their plane to destroy you, you have all these sitting ducks right next to each other. So that was the biggest curse of it was called the Kurubutai, the 4 main Japanese carrier. I think Strike Group 1 or something. But all the events did take place, and there's a really good book about this called Pacific Payback, which actually follows the Enterprise crew from before the war until the Battle of Midway. So I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. I wonder how much they talk about this. And as I was watching it, I was like, what the fuck? This is the book Pacific Payback, but with a different name. Like, I couldn't agree with you more, Mike. Why is it called Midway? Why is Doolittle in there? Why is the raid on Roy Namori in there? And why the fuck does every single early war Pacific movie need to show the Japanese Naval High Command, like, in Japan planning shit? Like, Tora,
Pearl Harbor, yeah.
Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
fucking, the original Midway. Like, why do we need to see these upper echelon? Like, why does a group of Japanese high officers have to talk about fighting and then they fight? Like,
Well,
you can leave that fucking shit out.
That was one thing that I wanted to bring up, and I was thinking about it while I was watching the movie. Because I remember, Brian, one time you were telling me, you said you really don't like it when, like, war movies jam in these scenes that have, like, a bunch of strategic, talking and all this stuff. And not that, it's like, no,
Yeah.
and it's not like, oh, I'm too stupid to follow that. It's more just like the audience doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's just chewing gum for the movie. It's just filling it up, showing that this shit's important. And it's an easy way to show that, like, shit is important. But this, I was thinking that because this movie is jammed to the gills with that shit. And it's just like Pearl Harbor when it comes to that. And also like Pearl Harbor, I mean, I could the Pearl Harbor scene in this movie, I could intercut that scene with shots from the movie Pearl Harbor, and you wouldn't be able to tell which one was which because it looks the exact fucking same. The shot of the Arizona exploding is from the exact same angle that it's shown in the movie Pearl Harbor. It is the exact same shot. I mean, they could have just taken the shot from Pearl Harbor and put that in the movie. I mean, I don't know why they had to take all the time to redo it if it was going to be the exact same fucking thing.
We should take Pearl Harbor in this movie and make, like, the mega movie. It's like everything covered up to Midway. Eagle Squadron, Roy Namor, Doolittle twice. Like,
yeah.
fucking.
But the funny thing is, like what you're saying, yes, all this stuff did happen, but it's one of those
doesn't need to get shown.
Right. I mean, I know a lot of people, complain about historical accuracy in a lot of movies. Myself being one of them, and it's like I think a lot of people think, oh, if they only made this movie exactly like a history book, that would make those people happy. It's like, no, there's a separation between history and a movie. And this is just a Wikipedia page, this movie. It's just, hey, this is what happened from
barely.
Yeah. It's like it is the surface level stuff of this movie. It's like their source, their historical source material was Wikipedia. It is so surface level, and yeah.
it reminded me a lot, it was like a watered down Pearl Harbor, basically, like, half the time. But it also reminded me a lot of Fury, because it's just like, that's cool. Let's do that. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's cool. It's like, they're just pulling shit. And like, it's about everything but Midway. And they don't even do a good job of telling the Battle of Midway. Like, when they were talking about, like, the battles and stuff, I'm like, cool, we can see some Coral Sea stuff, because nobody fucking knows about Coral Sea. Nobody sees Coral Sea stuff. And then it's like the Yorktown is Hornet is sinking or something. And it's like, wow, fucking, that's great. You get nothing out of it. It's like this. It's just they hit all the wrong notes along the way. And the Battle of Midway is like 30 minutes for the film called Midway. Like, the movie Midway is 2.5 hours of the Battle of Midway. Like, from May to June of 44. And also, it was so annoying how they fucking had to throw Ford in there. In the whole, how he
John
was on
Ford.
Midway. Yeah. And,
I think that was
so
the
annoying.
only time we see the Midway Islands was,
Yeah.
it was him, is when we cut to him. And I was like, oh, that's cute. And,
and both.
And Midway's a tiny fucking island.
Oh, yeah.
Two islands surrounded by a big reef. Yeah.
Right. It's tiny. Like, it's, yeah. So.
But it was just so jarring and so all over the place. It was hard to follow. I mean, again, it was cool that there was a lot of real facts. And I will recommend this. I mean, there's a ton of books on Midway if you want to read them. But there's one really good documentary on YouTube from this guy called Montemayor. And he does really good, like, he's a student and he takes years to make these videos, but they are the best fucking thing ever. Like, you just sit down for 2 hours and you will get every single fact about Midway you ever wanted or didn't want to know, and it's just crazy how that's out there, and all these crazy facts are out there, but they choose the worst things to pull on, Like, I bet a lot of people will watch
it's
this.
Hollywood for you.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
Hollywood.
And also,
let's be honest.
And we are all sitting here. We're not to sound egotistical, but we're very lucky. We're in a position of privilege to have made war movies before, and we're lucky enough to basically be able to make more, in the future. So
we sat through all that shit. We actually did the research. That's the difference. Is like,
but like, I had a very interesting perspective coming in because I used to watch movies all the time with reenacting and history and what I liked, and I always thought that the more correct things are, the better the film will be. And that is such an illusion. Like you were saying, Mike.
Yes.
Just like, well, if it's like a Wikipedia article, then the historians will love it. It's like, no. Story and fact are two different things. You're never going to get everything right. That's the biggest illusion I had going into both war films I've made now, is that you're not going to get everything right, and if you're trying to, you're focusing on the wrong things. Like you have to let a little of that go to make it work. And any good film has that. It has this bit of fantasy to it. So approaching this and having it all factual just leads to this meandering 2.5 hour thing that's barely about the subject matter that it says it's about.
Right, and so with that, I agree. Nate, what are your thoughts?
It's an absolute piece of shit.
Says the man that owns the DVD.
Yeah.
Look.
We don't want you to sugarcoat it. Like, just tell us how you actually are.
Okay,
thinking.
so I say that to get a reaction. What I genuinely think is knowing what it takes to get into to do a movie like this. I had to look at it when I got about, I don't know, Two-Face giving a lighter to a Chinese guy in the middle of rural China. Right. That whole storyline that doesn't
go
show
anywhere
ever again until the very end, other than to say lots of Chinese died from Japan Wikipedian page. Like
we'll get to that.
Like,
we'll get to that.
Like
we'll discuss that.
So my point is like I went and I said, okay, I have to disconnect my brain here. I have to do what I have to do with wind talkers, otherwise I'm going to have an aneurysm. Because right. my grandfather was in Midway, and so for me there's a very big connection with that, and so I knew after that I wasn't going to get like this, like I haven't seen Greyhound, but Greyhound looks a little bit better.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, like a little bit better in that sense of like maybe a narrative, because the thing was I had to go, okay, this is going to be a great entertainment movie. And I'm going to have to sit here and go, it's a great entertainment movie. Was I entertained? Yeah, I actually was. I thought the visual effects were, even though they were not the highest with it all being CG, it was very impressive because I know what it takes to do all that. So that's very impressive. And I know someone slaved over it. So to have like a little bit of, I guess, I don't know, I don't want to say empathy, but just knowing the pain it takes to do all that stuff, it's like I have to respect that someone had to do what they were told.
It's called empathy.
Empathy, okay. Had to do what they were told and do it. And they did a good job. And I think it is represented well in that sense. However, it is not... It's a factual movie, but it's not a factual movie. Like, it's terrifyingly not factual. And I want to like it, but it's like there's just, like, it started evolving into, like, this... I referenced it before, but like a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
You have the one F word. You have the one thing. You have it's yeah, America, oorah, oorah, oorah. Kill them Japs, do all this stuff, revenge for Pearl. Although I don't think they really go too hard on the Japanese stereotype.
Well, it's weird.
Except for the one captain of the cruiser, I'll say. I don't know who the casting guy for that was, but fucking,
but like
one job.
Like, it was just I had to disconnect and go. It's a good entertainment movie. It is narrative soup fucking sandwich. It's so all over the place, and we've already touched on it like for the last 15 minutes about the same thing. The other thing I'd have to add, I guess, on my take, because everything's kind of already been said already, is I think I know the answer to the disingenuous acting that we expect from these high level, kind of powerhouse actors that we've seen. Even Ajax the dish soap from Deadpool, like, he does pretty well. I think what it comes down to, especially the older actors like, Woody Harrelson, Dennis Quaid, a few others, green screen and heavily CG films are very hard for people who aren't visual.
Oh yeah.
If they don't see it in front of them, they can't they can't do the acting that they're most likely probably used to. The heavy CG stuff is really hard for some people to grasp and to pull that. And to them, they're just like, I see green. and they want me to say these lines, so I'm going to say I'm like an action hero.
Well, dude, here's the thing.
Phantom Menace.
That's the exact problem with the Star Wars prequels.
What did you?
And
What did you say?
he said,
I had a cough and I said the Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah.
but
yeah.
no, here's the thing.
Yeah.
When it comes, because there are a lot of movies where you have really good actors and they're terrible in them, and it's all down to the director, and like what you say with the green screen stuff like that, because all that stuff is up to the director. Oh, we're gonna put you in front of a green screen. Just imagine you see something over there. But it all comes down to the director. It's like, I mean, this kind of a weird analogy, but like it's you need a tool. A tool is made to do certain things, but you need someone who is skilled at using that tool to use it properly. And that's how it is with directors. Like, you need a director who is really good at being able to tune these actors to what they are to be able to perform. And Roland Emmerich doesn't give two shits about actors. All he cares about is spectacle. So he's like, okay, stand in front of the camera, say your lines. Just I don't care how you say them. Just and
I will. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. It's just
Okay.
it's just real. It's so blah. He doesn't care about the acting at all. I guarantee you, any kind of direction he gets, just stand there and say your lines. That's all he does.
And can I also prove your point here? Because after the Patriot, we have The Day After Tomorrow, 10,000 BC, 2012.
Yeah,
Dark Horse, Anonymous, White House Down, Independence Day Resurgence, Day After Tomorrow, Deleted Scenes Edition, and then we have Midway.
Yeah,
it's not a great record for not heavy CG spectacle.
I see a lot of 2012 in this. Now you say that.
They're all the same. But another thing that's funny too is like with going about actors, like I think every single male character in this movie was married to the same woman. Like I could not differentiate any of the female characters.
I am so glad it wasn't just me.
Right,
I got very confused. I was like, wait.
Yep.
Everyone's
wait,
married.
why is his wife? What?
Everyone's married to the same woman, and it's just like it's so. The writing is so bad. It's all the wives are there for just to say, "Oh, you're not going away again, are you?" It's just like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, it's so fucking one-dimensional. Typical bullshit.
You're working
PG-13.
too hard.
Can't have any
you're
drama,
working too hard. Yeah.
I'll make you a sandwich. It's just like, oh.
I told him not to be a pilot.
Now we're getting. Yep, we're getting into the nitty-gritty shit. Like that's fun because. Yeah, it's so fucking retarded.
Although I will tell you right now, the entertainment value plummeted when I heard "For the Pearl."
See, that was what I was saying when I say like this seems like a movie that was made in the 40s or 50s and he drops the bomb through the rising sun.
That actually did happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that did.
That's why
that
there actually is a
did
lot of
happen
things that
like
did happen.
that.
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, he fucked up. He fucked up then.
He was just.
Not
He
a
said
good
he was
drop.
aiming for where the ship should have been, and that's the reason he hit it.
Okay, so one thing. One thing among the many details that we can get into is when you drop a 500-pound bomb on a carrier, unless you hit the magazine or where the ammo's being kept, there's no magazine really. It's technically on a carrier.
Ammo depot or whatever. Yeah.
Unless you hit that, there's not going to be a fucking chain reaction.
The reason
that's not how it works.
The reason that it happened like this, which they do a very poor job in this film of Midway explaining, but they do a really good job of doing the original Midway, was that because of all the things that happened in the morning of the 4th, they were rearming to go attack the ships. And
it's a powder keg.
And well, that's the thing though. There was fucking the whole air arm of the ship was being refilled or rearmed in the I forget what it's called, but it's a special hangar deck, not the hangar deck or something. But like that's where they were all rearming. And the thing about Japanese ships is they don't have any fire damage or fire control. That was big because they were all basically converted battleships or merchant ships because of the Washington Treaty. So I understand what you mean. An American or a Western style carrier. Or they had one modern one late in the war called the Tahoe that like if you hit, yes, that's not going to happen. But Midway was a very special circumstance of events. Like it's crazy. The battle shouldn't have happened how it happened, but it did how it did. And yeah, those fucking carriers blew the fuck up like when they got hit by the bombs. Under any other scenario, I 100% agree with you. Under any other battle, I 100% agree with you. But Midway is just very strange. And that's why it's crazy because like the whole war changed in 5 fucking minutes. Like completely.
If you want to know the nitpicky thing for me, Mike, a fucking carrier can't move that goddamn fast on turning the
Thank
goddamn
you.
wheel. It's
Thank
not a
you.
fucking car. I'm a boater. Trust me, not even an 18-foot Boston whaler can move that pivot that fast on a
Dude.
turn.
And in this film, this particular
Ugh.
film is like it was like, okay, go to port or go to starboard, you know, and they just fucking cranked the wheel, and then it was
It's
like
instantly like it's like
you're
it's-
driving a
yeah.
speedboat.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah.
like this thing is the size of a fucking city. Right? It's
Yeah.
huge. Right? The laws of physics do not allow that thing to just pivot and go, oh, well, we're going to avoid the torpedo or the bombs. No.
Oh, the
And
torpedo, yeah.
oh my God. And like, so there's that. Another thing is, it showed in one scene, I think it was the Americans, their fleet. Yeah, you're never going to have two aircraft carriers that fucking close to each other.
They could
You're
see the
just not
groups.
going to do
They
that.
could. You mean later on when they could see the Yorktown getting attacked?
Yeah, but do you remember the scene where they were like literally like probably 300 yards away from each other?
Well, I think that was like when
carriers?
they were going to Midway. But I know what you mean though. They
Still-
would have had different task
Still
forces.
would not happen because, dude,
What's
the
on
whole,
the
the
deck
whole
of that
thing-
ship?
Yeah, those American bombers? No fucking way would they have seen that.
Yeah.
There's no fucking
Yeah.
way because, dude, the carrier is the center of the entire fucking fleet at that
Oh,
point.
yeah.
And it's like you're not just gonna have like two aircraft carriers rolling along. They're like, oh, you got a fucking Shelby GT500? I got a fucking Corvette, bitch. Yeah, hey, nice. Yeah.
red
Oh,
light
what you
on a
got going?
Friday.
Oh, you got fucking America. You got U.S. Army bombers in that? Fuck you, man. No. They're gonna be so far apart. Sure, they can see each other on the horizon. Maybe.
Well, that's the thing. Like when the
But, like-
Yorktown was getting attacked, they could see the flak over the horizon. So that's how they knew. Because I think no, it was
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But, yeah, I know what you mean.
That's. But you know what I mean? Like there was a scene where there was two aircraft carriers right next to each other. It's like I don't give a fuck what happens. You guys are be in communication with people that are like, hey, we're here. Your navigators and everything are going to be like saying, hey, yeah, it's never going to fucking happen. And if it did, a lot of people really fucked up
Oh yeah.
bad. So
And-
that's totally shitty. And they did that for the cinematic effect, which I
Yep.
get. Because then they could see, oh, they got army bombers and oh, good. Who gives a fuck?
Which is like literally, it's like I think a similar scene from Midway or from Pearl Harbor when that happened. Oh wait, no, they're the pilots, so they know.
I'll tell you another a horrible inaccuracy. No seafaring man would ever waste a perfectly good anchor on a POW.
They
Yeah.
would have used
Correct.
like a weight for that. Yeah.
Usually they would use because when they
Would feel like it would feel like just they would fill some kind of debris they don't need anymore and fill it full of shit. and
when they
toss it
put
over.
dead over the side for like burial at sea, they usually use empty shell casings during the war. That's how they would weight the
Yeah,
whatever.
put them in
But
an
yeah.
empty fucking ammo box, and then yeah,
But they're
all you need.
seafarers,
Done.
Nathan. It's not like a room full of anchors. You know, the end of the cruiser.
Well, like I hate that's what pulled me out of this scene. I'm just like I'm looking at him going, they're not gonna. He's not tied to that anchor, right? That's a good anchor. Like, why would you toss that over?
That's a good anchor right there.
I was
you know?
thinking about that because the funny thing is like you really don't need anything. You don't need something extremely heavy to just pull someone down in the
No.
water. Yeah.
No.
I don't need this POW, but I need this anchor.
Yeah.
Like,
I also don't need these empty ammo crates that we used in these engagements. I don't need these empty ammo casings, so we'll just stuff them full of
Hey
that.
Johnny, get
And
the
that'll
cement
weigh about-
shoes.
Right. That'll weigh half his body weight, and he's also tied in his hands so he can't swim, and he's tied with his feet so he can't swim.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
damn.
right.
You know? But again, cinematic effect. And it's just like, what? I get it.
why
but
don't you go
like,
fuck yourself?
Yeah.
hey, no, if that story's true and he actually said that,
Yeah.
that's an American.
Nobody
Yeah.
knows what he said because they found out about it after the fact. Like after the
Yeah,
war,
yeah,
they were
yeah,
like,
yeah,
these two
yeah.
guys are missing, and they were like, this
Yeah,
Japanese
yeah.
destroyer. They're like, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he could-
did.
He
Yeah,
could have
yeah.
been like, piss off, not doing it.
Yeah, who knows?
You know?
Yeah,
And
I
Something
did.
like that, but
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean. I keep.
oh no, it's fine. I was just speculating, like, you know, what he could have said, and like, but so that story was true, and like, that's fine, but like, why is that one of your like pinnacles of like, oh, the film?
Well, that's
Why don't you go fuck yourself?
what I want to say about some of the stuff that I was very confused with this movie was that like where this movie does not isolate itself to the American perspective. It also goes to the Japanese perspective, despite the fact being that this movie is a fucking like patriotic, like American flag, thumping type thing, and which is so
Jerk-off fest.
yeah, which is so confusing because because they try to show like some of the atrocities happening in China, or they mention them, or something like that. And at the end of the movie, it's like dedicated to the Americans and Japanese. It's like, what? It doesn't make any sense with the tone that it's setting. It's just weird. Yeah, I don't.
Well, it was stupid too because it's like, okay, at the end, let's just address this, Nate. Like, at the end, it's all about how fucking bad the Japanese were, and it's like, blah blah. This guy fucking, did this heroic shit, and it's like, they don't mention the Japanese. Like, the Japanese fought extremely well. They did. You can like it or hate it. It's a fact. They fought extremely well. Like, they fell into a trap, and they responded the best they could. And it was all like, the Japanese are just killers, like, from the Chinese scene, like when they were in China with Doodle. And it's like, okay, so all the Japanese were these psychotic killers, and these sailors that were facing the Americans who did it very well. And also, I want to address the they didn't go all the way. They went about 70% of the way of the kamikazes, right?
Yeah, I was about
That was a
to
true story too. That happened.
Yeah, but that shit was it intention? Like, because the actual
This
kamikazes.
part of the war, no, it was my planes.
Yeah, that's
damaged.
what I thought. It
What
was
the fuck?
it was too early. I thought the guy who had low fuel, low everything, who was looking at the burning carrier was going to kamikaze, but
So-
then they didn't do that.
That was not to
Right,
interject, but that was really cool. I thought because like that was the big thing. You have fucking 3 carrier groups flying around trying to land, and their carriers are gone because the first wave had just got back from Midway. So those guys basically dished into the sea. That was the big thing. Like if you have nowhere to land, you can't land fucking 4 carrier groups onto one carrier. So I thought it was kind of cool, but they did it kind of bad because like the guy's just like tapping his gauge and they do nothing else. But I thought that was kind of interesting thing to put in there. There's a few good things they did put in there, but
I was gonna say just like the one thing I did think, whether it's done accurately or correctly, the one thing I found at least very impressive was the interpretation of something that we haven't been able to get in prior Midway-like movies is the perspective of the actual dive from those
Yes.
droppers. That's something that very much impressed me from this film. Honestly, I
Yeah,
liked
those
the way they
planes
did
were
that.
not made for that.
Yeah,
And they had to figure out how to do that and then pull up. That's why they were saying. Yeah, so I'm agreeing with you. Is like
yeah.
when he's at 1,800 feet, that's not enough, and that's why he hit the fucking water.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, dude, those planes are not made to do that.
Yeah.
Your body's not made to do that unless you're in a specifically designed plane. Like that's why on the Ju-87 they had wings, and the whole plane was designed specifically for diving, like going almost straight down,
Yeah.
picking up speed. You're at terminal velocity and then some because you've got your engines going. And then you have to drop this bomb and then pull up, and then you're gonna probably pass out.
Right.
The
Yeah.
G-force.
Yeah. Because I mean
And,
that
yeah.
was something I don't think they explained very well, is that those planes were not designed for that. They didn't never really
The
touched
wings
on
would
that.
pop off.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Or else you just
Yeah.
keep going into the
And-
ocean. Like, yeah.
And
Or
they-
you,
and they
you
did
break
show-
the cables
and
in
they-
your wings and you try to pull up because the G-force is too much, and then you
Right,
pummel
yeah.
to your
Right.
target.
Then you're fucked.
That was a big problem later in the war.
And they did show a lot of guys going, like.
Yeah.
Like
They did.
that is not something they shied away from, and I mean there were no named
Right.
planes, but it was interesting to watch that in that perspective of that.
I did like that they did show, a couple of the planes when they hit the aircraft carriers, they just crash. I did like.
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I mean, it's a dumb movie, but it's like, I mean, that did happen a lot where those, because you can go onto YouTube and just find like compilations of stock footage
Oh, yeah.
taken of just planes just like disintegrating when they hit those aircraft
and
carriers.
that's the thing, is we haven't really had a movie in this modern era of cinema to really depict that. So as much as we shit on this movie, there are some very cool things that, again, I think Mike
a lot of cool things.
I think
Yep.
Mike insinuated a little bit of it. It's like, I watched those cool clips on YouTube, and that's all I had to do.
That's all you needed.
Like
Well, I watched the one of him saying, why don't you go fuck yourself?
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I never want to watch this fucking movie. And then here we are.
yeah.
But no. So to your point though, they actually did a lot of really cool things. With the aviation, like it's yeah, because the Japanese had zeros at this point, and they could outmaneuver any fucking American plane at that point. Any fighter plane, torpedo plane, bomber plane, fighter bomber, you name it. Um, and they actually showed that a bit, and then they showed that the American fighter bombers or torpedo planes had machine guns in the back, and they could actually get them off their ass. They didn't do that in the way that I would have liked to. Like they just had them shooting.
They had the wrong
Not
sound
one.
too, because that was
Well, and
that
not
should be
one.
a stinger.
Yeah, because yep, because and it was it was a.
They
And
used
so here's
Brownings.
the thing too with that not one reload was shown for the rear gunners, which they had extra ammo back
I think
there.
300 rounds extra. Yeah, they only another.
Yes, and so there was no reloads. Also, a lot of the machine gunners and the planes were just firing just, but there were a lot of scenes where the planes were firing in like controlled bursts, like like
Yeah.
where they, and so that's the thing is like the people don't realize that in a dogfight in World War II, no matter where you are, ETO, PTO, you've got a limited amount of ammo, and your guns will jam. And so you're not going to want to just lay on that unless you've got a really good shot on a bomber or something, and you know that if you keep on for about another half second, it's going to fucking go, but you're down more ammo than you thought. And so in a lot of these scenes, they actually, they're just going, and it hits the plane, and they readjust, and then they go, miss, hits the plane. And it's like, okay, that's realistic.
Yeah.
That's actually realistic.
And
that,
the
that
fact that they
fun.
weren't hitting the tail gunner either, or the tail for the plane at all. Like that's
Right, no,
something.
they're going for the engine.
Yeah,
they're going
yeah,
for the
yeah.
engine and the pilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yep. I will just say that if I was a rear gunner, I would totally do an Indiana Jones maneuver. Shoot the back of the
hit
plane.
the tail.
Yeah.
Just shoot yourself
Yeah.
down. It's quicker.
Oh, and 100%. I playing L2 Sturmovik and doing that. I've shot down my own plane.
Talking
so
about
many
doing a
times
Henry
because
Jones.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
blow the tail apart.
Son, I'm sorry.
They got
us.
But
It's a big risk.
yeah, to add on to what you said, Mike, though, that's where the term "the whole 9 yards" comes from, because you had
Right.
9 yards of a belt.
9
And,
yards of ammo.
if you got the guy in your fucking sights, you give him the whole 9 yards, which you hammer away.
And 9 yards is not much.
No.
20 to 25 seconds, I think, continues fire, depending on the plane.
I think it was less than that, dude. I think it was like 15.
Well, I might be thinking of a Spitfire, but I'm saying in general for the Second World War, like you have
Yeah, sure.
25
I think in general it was
seconds of
between 10 and
continuous fire.
15.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but like it's not that long.
Yeah, well, especially when you
I
think
mean,
about
that
a
ammo
P-51.
also has a lot of weight.
Yeah.
You know? That ammo has a lot of weight to it, and you can only put so much in the wings, plus the fuel and all that shit. And it's like, yeah, so that's why like when you see original footage of original cam footage in the cockpit of pilots from whatever side, yeah, they usually fire in like very short bursts because they've got 4 to 8 guns going off depending on what plane you're talking about, and it's like, well, that's a lot of rounds, and it's like I got to make sure those shots are on target. If they're not, and I run out, I'm fucked because I have to go back to my field unarmed and have these guys chase me and deal with anti-aircraft fire. It's like it's not good. And so, that's the thing that like very few films. And this one, here's the thing: is like they half did and they half didn't. And I'm like, well, that would save you a bunch in post, for CGI, is to not have these guys doing that. But like some scenes, it was like massive bursts, and then like the same plane is doing massive bursts again. It's like, well, you're out of ammo at this point. You're done, or at least one of your weapons would have jammed. Blah de blah. But in certain scenes, they had it right, and I'm like, why the fuck were you consistent?
Yeah, it's probably the advisor fighting the director. That's what I'm guessing, is like someone saying, okay, this has to be logical for blah 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 because you want it to be correct, don't you, Roland Emmerich? And he's like, yes, I do. And then he's like, but wait a minute, I want it to be like this, and that's usually how it goes. Is when it comes to that, it's that the director with his vision is fighting, the advisor. That happens a lot, like in, say.
Well, I have no idea about that ever.
Hey, I listen to you guys.
No, I'm not fucking with you, but like, no, it's like here's the thing: is he did not listen.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's the
It's
problem.
like,
So then it's a clusterfuck.
He didn't listen. Yeah, and it's like it's inconsistent because, yeah, a lot of those scenes. I was sitting there. I was like the aerial combat and the like when they were strafing the. Again, you don't strafe a fucking ship. Because as a fighter, you don't strafe a ship.
Well,
that's not your role.
I disagree because you're gonna hit something, and in that situation, I mean, if you're low enough for like the Dauntless or something.
But again, the bursts on those is what I'm saying. It's like if you're gonna strafe the ship, it's not gonna be these long like from fucking bow to stern. It's not gonna be that whole thing, which was portrayed in the movie, right? And then with every hit from your machine gun, there's an explosion. Not factual.
Yeah, that's how it
Not
is
at
in
all.
the movie. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like talking about all these things that are depicted a little bit well in this movie, like some of the bursts and things like that. The problem is the whole movie, though, like all of these air battles and such. It feels like fucking Star Wars the way that they do it with the cameras spinning around in the air and stuff like that, and it just takes
exactly.
Yeah, it takes all of the tension out. The movie has absolutely no teeth, no balls, and it just all feels like a fucking a cutscene to a
action
Medal of
movie.
Honor game.
It's an action
movie. Right, yeah.
That's the thing is it's an action movie. It's not trying to like convey the struggle that was the Battle of Midway, which again, I know very surface level shit, but I also know that it was a very
Red Tails.
Very intense and very pivotal battle. And didn't last that long, but it was like insane. And they got some of the shit right. From what I know of like aerial combat, blah blah blah, aerial to naval combat too, and it's like they got some of it right, but like why didn't they follow through? That's the problem. It's like, and I think that's what you were saying, Mike, is like either the budget didn't account for it or some other weird shit. But like the advisor team or advisor and director just they didn't get it on several of these scenes.
Yeah, it was. That's usually what happens. I mean, and you hear about it like with Band of Brothers in the Pacific and Saving Private Ryan, stuff like that. Is that the advisors? They say, hey, this has to be this way, but the director says, but we have to show this. And it's usually. I mean, the director is going to win. He's the top dog. So it's whenever. I like when I was working with you guys. I'm like, listen, you guys get what I'm trying to do with this movie, but I want you guys to tell me like what is the most realistic. And when it came to this and stuff like that, that was important to me. And I was like, whatever is the most realistic, I can mold that into a movie. Because that's what's important to me. Yeah, and to mold that into a narrative. But with Roland Emmerich, I think he's just like, no, I want to see cool shit. I don't care if it's not realistic.
Right. That's that. Yeah, you're probably right. And so. I'm sure, like, the scenes that were actually fairly realistic, in my opinion, that's not a fact, were the ones that he listened to on, and it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. The biggest pet peeve I had, that's something that was original, that they could have and added that would have been fucking insane, is during the war, every Japanese ship used a different colored dye for their flak so that they could easily adjust to the range of the fighter. So if you're on ship X, you use orange dye so you can, get your range, whatever. So when those guys were diving on the fucking fleet, it looked like the last 20 minutes of 2001 Space Odyssey. They were literally fucking flying through a rainbow, which I think would be fucking insane. Now, it would make it look completely out of this world, but that's how it was. Like you're fucking flying through a deadly rainbow.
There's different ways to do it, though. There's different ways to do it. Like how I would have done this. Like when I've seen like stock footage from the Pacific War and I see the tracers and stuff going through the air, I mean, it looks scary. I mean, they look sporadic and you never know what the fuck they're gonna hit. But in this movie, it's like every molecule around the planes is getting shot except for the planes.
Yes, that's very true. It's like Star Wars.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem. It's like you need to do it in a realistic way and not turn it into Star Wars or a video game,
Or Independence Day. Yeah, exactly. It's like there's a difference between space combat and, actual Earth combat, whatever you want to say. But, it's just, they got a lot right, but they did miss out on some of these, like, few little things that, in my opinion, would have made it just like that much better for those certain scenes. Like I did like how a lot of times they were surprised. Like all of a sudden tracers would fly past their cockpit and like, oh shit, Japs are there. Not like, look at the meatballs on their wings. Just like it was kind of cool how like you realized what was happening as they realized what was happening, or at least that's how they attempted to do it. But yeah, overall it was just really boring and meandering until like the first real dive bombing attack on the Japanese fleet, which is 20 minutes of the movie, which is the only part where they're at Midway. So
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you when or where Midway was, except for the John Ford scenes. I didn't even know why the fuck it was important to begin with. If I was going into this movie not knowing anything about the actual battle.
They don't even have a map either. Too, you think that like in the Pacific they do a really good job of like in the beginning you're like, okay, here's the extent of the Japanese Empire, and then we're gonna push it back. But in this, they're just like, we're going to this tell me where Roy Namor is on a map. I do because I'm a fucking nerd, but I bet 99% of the people that are watching this thing have no fucking idea.
Well, there was a lot. That's why I'm saying like this movie. It felt like a Wikipedia page. It's like I'm sorry, I can't click on the hyperlink that's on the screen, but and then there's also parts of it. I'm just like, why does this even need to be stated? Like towards the end, it's like listing the time during the day. Like when things are happening, I don't give a shit about that. Mm-hmm. Why would the audience care what time it is?
Well, they should have shown everything. It's like from the first fucking scout plane to the ending.
I think the timing, the time and the date and all that kind of stuff would matter if it was more centralized on Midway and not everything before.
Like the original movie, which takes place over like 3 days.
And that might be why it's like that, because it's giving a nod to it. Unlike all that whole narrative beforehand.
The Japanese wife or girlfriend too is another nod to the original Midway, because like that's a big pivotal thing where they're locking her up and stuff.
I don't even remember that in the movie. Was that a scene in Midway? Was that a scene in the movie we just watched?
Not in the original.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
But like, what is it? Best's wife has like kind of some Asian features, and that's what at least the connection I drew, because like the original
Polynesian
lead fighter pilot in the real Midway, like fucking his wife is like behind fucking chains, and he's like, because they actually did start to like send the Japanese population out of Hawaii around that time, so it isn't necessarily not incorrect, but I saw that and I'm like, oh, this is another nod, Oh, and the whole code breaking stuff was kind of cool. They didn't do too much of an overlay of it, but they did do an okay job of telling the story.
See, that's the problem though, is that like while I was watching this movie, I was like seeing all these other movies that like are in it, like, oh, that mm-hmm. subject would have been cool to have just a movie about that,
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
And there's like 25 of them. There's I say, there's Pearl Harbor, there's Coral Sea, there's the Doolittle raid, there's the code breaking stuff, and then there's all this stuff. It's like, and it's so brief, but it's like that would be interesting as a movie on its own. Here, though, I'm just getting very surface level shit that doesn't have any, meaning. It's just, hey, that's a thing that happened, and it's just, it doesn't have any substance at all.
You could literally cut everything prior to maybe the Coral Sea interaction, mm-hmm. and have it all be text before the same text that showed up before the beginning of the movie. You could literally do the same movie and just cut all that. I understand for Pearl Harbor. I understand it's trying to paint the picture of the feeling of the country and the blah, 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 blah things we've all watched a million times. But there's nothing prevalent other than maybe the code breaker character who was manning that saying, well, you guys should have trusted me. Like, that's probably like the only thing, although he didn't say that, but it's like
who's a nod to the code breaker from Tora Tora Tora, who like the whole time is driving on Washington being like, right. Listen to me, and nobody does.
But you could state that with like a paper slamming on the desk. It's like Pearl Harbor attack. See, I fucking told you so, morons. And it's like, boom, done. Like whole half an hour of irrelevant characters. As much as I love Bjorn Ironside from Vikings being obliterated on the Arizona, it has no fucking point to that movie.
I want 4 hours of Japanese cabinet talking. Like, where they just decide what the national budget's going to be next year.
In all of those, conference room scenes and stuff like that. It's so many retired tropes, like they should have listened to me and all that stuff and oh my god, dude. And
At least there was no seppuku beheading scenes in this.
Right.
Like there's at least we don't have the very slow motion water on the blade, wiping the blade. Hey, that's all. Like that's all. Thank God that
this
wasn't
movie
there,
is dedicated to the Japanese.
They did do a cool nod though to the infighting between the Army and the Navy, because that was a big thing. But again, it's in the scope of things, it's irrelevant because they spend 20 minutes of 2.5 hours on the fucking battle it's named after. Like, it's
yeah,
just
I did pause the movie and go, how much longer is this?
Is this
and
fucking
it was almost,
thing? Yeah.
And it was
I had to do it
I
almost
said about 10 times.
yeah, it was almost almost done at the height of the Midway battle. I was like, Jesus, so I wasted all that time on worthless shit, and now we're at the battle? Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Independence Day in the fact that, like, it's lead up, big cool battle. Oh, it's over.
Shocker.
Well, that's when I messaged Brian. Yeah, and I watched the whole thing in one sitting. But you told me you had to watch it in chunks.
Yeah, I did
Brian.
it twice.
Yeah.
I actually fell asleep first time. I got like 40 minutes in, and then I woke up, and I was like, oh, the sun is out. And then I had to watch the second chunk the next day.
Oh,
So,
okay.
like, but yeah, it just the whole time, it's just so meandering. It's just hard to stay on top.
Yeah,
if
for all
you're in
that.
the theater, you're trapped. So I get it.
Right.
But like when you're at home, it's very hard to stay on top.
When it was finally over, I said to myself, "Thank God that's over." It's 'cause,
Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like it was.
We did it.
It was
We
so
did
bad.
it.
It's like, okay. To be fair though, there was about 3/4 of the way through when they actually got to the battle part of it, and I was overlooking all the like whatever like the things that like Mike said like, or Mike A said that there was flak and artillery coming up, and it just never seemed to hit them. It hit everywhere but them. When I overlooked that, the actual like shots of the aerial attack on the Japanese fleet, pretty cool. It was chaotic, and they also showed a lot of U.S. planes going down, which they did, a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
And it was. That's the thing too, is like it. I hate the movies where the U.S. is like, oh, we're unscathed, we lost a couple guys. It's like, no, you get your shit shoved in at Midway. Let's admit that. You just get your shit shoved in less than the Japanese did, and that's what war is in general. Is nobody won or lost. You just got your shit shoved in less than the other guy.
And they still got their shit shoved in at the very end too.
Yeah, it's too bad though. It's too bad.
Yeah.
It still feels like there are no fucking stakes at all. Anytime you see a plane go down in the movie, it's like, oh, who gives a shit about that guy? It's
Right.
I love at the very end.
It's like
of this,
the one guy that hits his head.
I love at the very end of this when they do their little fucking thing where they show like such and such became the whatever, and they have and they show the actual photo of him. I love that they showed that with one of the guys. I was like, oh, good. I really gave a shit about that guy. It was a guy I didn't even know I didn't even know he was a character or whatever. I was like, oh, I thought this guy just popped up for this scene right here. I didn't even realize he was in the movie.
One thing that I did like though was when one of the guys got hit. I don't remember who the fuck it was. He was the guy that landed in the water and was like kind of cheering his guys on in the water with the life vest.
The guy that had the fucking round seat to the pivotal changing point in the war. Another true story. Forget his name, but yeah.
Right. And so, but like when he's going down, he knows he's going into the water. He just releases the stick and he just kind of just goes.
Right. Like
Those are two different
like
guys,
that.
I think.
No, that's a two different guy, Mike.
Yeah.
Two different.
The guy who lets go of the stick and just eats shit.
He's
dies.
fucking on fire. He
Yeah,
explodes.
he's
he
dead.
dies?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
See
Yeah.
how memorable
the
these
leader.
characters are.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I would like more character development. Like of course, well, it's Lieutenant in the Navy, Lieutenant Best. Yeah, he's the king shit, whatever. Yeah, we follow him and he makes it through and blah blah blah, and he's in a wheelchair and coughing up blood because he was in caustic fucking acid, like caustic soda rather. Okay, that's fine. But who the fuck are the rest of these guys that we're supposed to care about? Like, what are you doing here?
To reiterate something that Mike said earlier, like with the Best character, it was really hard for me to listen to him because like it was like a guy with a really crazy lisp trying to be a New Yorker.
Oh,
and it
God.
was just like I get it. I'll give you an A for effort if anybody.
Are you talking about the main guy?
The best.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy with
that
caustic
actor is
soda.
Oh,
British in
okay.
real life.
Ajax. Yeah,
Oh
he's
my
British. He's
God.
British or Australian or
was-
something.
Having the ear for it, like living an hour outside of the city, it was just
Right.
Yeah. Get
hard.
up there and show those fucking Japs. Except he doesn't say
yeah.
fucking.
It's like fucking. Do you have a mental
Well,
problem?
I can even tell, like not
you
being familiar
know.
with that, I can even tell that's not natural.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he was
So I've met a
fighting
lot of guys
so
from
many
New York
things.
and shit. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just there's something off about that.
Mm-hmm.
Nick
So I couldn't tell as much as you could, but like, yeah.
Nick
yeah.
Jonas's accent was even worse. You know, and
Yeah,
that's
right.
that's why they only showed him twice in
Weird.
the movie talking.
Yeah.
He was a fucking retard.
Yeah.
But hey,
And to touch on character arcs, as far as we know, that pilot is still at gunpoint on the destroyer, like waiting to get thrown off. Like,
Yeah, the other guy,
We never
the other guy,
changed
yeah,
it.
second guy.
You know,
Yeah.
saw
Who
the end of
knows,
his
dude?
arc.
Everything just doesn't add up to anything in this. Like the Doolittle thing, when they mentioned that at the end, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was even part of the movie. Like, it just
Yeah, right?
doesn't become anything.
and what do you do? There was a lot of We Were Soldiers too that was a callback of like the big speeches and like the way they were like all dramatic and shit. So they basically like observed other war movies that were also not that great. That's a good one we should probably review.
We Were Soldiers.
I'm just
That's
thinking about
our-
this right now.
That's
Yeah.
our pilot. Yeah.
But
that
we
was our
could
pilot
we could
episode.
we could
Okay.
absolutely redo
We
it.
could definitely do it again with
Yeah.
our
I've
new
only
cast.
seen that
Okay,
movie
because
once.
well, okay, I'll watch it again just so I'm refreshed. I've seen it a bunch of times. 'Cause I used to love it when I was in like high school, and then I, became aware of reality.
It's a very high school
how-
movie, you know. It's a
Yes.
it's a very like teenage angst.
Right, and so but anyway, so there was a lot of the We Were Soldiers like kind of bullshit, like the really honor and glory kind of shit. And it's like,
This is 2019.
dude, I've talked to guys. Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is I've talked to guys that were in the Yadrong Valley, right, in '65, in '66, and they don't talk at all like that. They're just like, yeah, it was a disaster. It was terrifying. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. It was just constant fire, and guys were getting hit left and right. And the one guy I talked to took an AK round through his fucking knee, and he showed me the scar and everything. And like, he's like, yeah, I got out of there because I got wounded. He's like, a lot of other guys didn't get out of there because they got killed. He's like, it was a clusterfuck, and it was like, and when I'm like, what do you think of We Were Soldiers? He just goes, shakes his head,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, it's a film. That's what he said. He goes, or it was a movie. It's a movie,
Yeah.
something like that, And I was like, okay, and I didn't know it at the time, but like, yeah, now I get it. So yeah, we should definitely do that. But anyway, there were a lot of these kind of We Were Soldiers-esque kind of fucking, and it's not just We Were Soldiers like specifically. It's this like honor and glory shit. It's like put in there.
Missing in action, or like that
Yeah,
genre of patriot war movies.
These shitty lines, the shitty scenes of like,
One-liners.
well, it's the scenes too that were like, yeah, I guess just people just, it helps if you have some military personnel that were, in combat roles on set. And I'll say that very self-aggrandizingly because it did help for our shit. And I noticed that because it was like a lot of the tropes weren't there to begin with. And when they were starting to be there, they were immediately like, nope,
Yeah, they were stomped
not
out.
the way it would be.
Yep.
And it wasn't just from, the director. It was, certain people on set and the cast and crew. They were like, nah, that's not how people talk when they're in this situation. It's just not. And, and that's the thing is like, a lot of these films, a lot of these big films don't have that sense of like, yeah, that's not how guys talk when they're in this situation. Like, so one scene in this film particularly, when he goes in and the guy doesn't want to fly, and he's like, you have to pick somebody else. He gives him like this cheer up, suck up speech.
Which one?
It's towards the end.
The end
it's
one or
towards the
the
end, the
first
guy-
one? The guy takes a nosedive and gets run over by the ship.
Both. We'll just say both. We'll say both because they're actually relevant.
Again, we know these characters so well. Reginald 2,
yeah.
character 47. Okay,
The guy was wearing the dark blue flight suit towards the end is what
Okay,
I'm talking about.
gotcha.
But
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
both relevant.
Mhm.
Is you get an officer that's giving you a grandiose speech, and motivating you in like 5 seconds. It's like, No, if a guy's saying he doesn't want to fly, that's not good, A. B, a 30-second speech isn't going to fucking get him off his ass and, like, want to jump in the cockpit or jump in the fucking rear. Like, you either talk to him for a long time, or if the mission is dependent on it, you go, okay, fuck you, I'll deal with you when I get back.
That's the latter, I believe, is how I would have gone in that situation, because it was
Yeah.
during the
Right.
middle of a battle, and it was just like,
Right.
I can't now, sir. Fuck him, you. You know, like that's how I think it would have gone in real life.
Here you go, O'Malley. You can thank your stupid friend here for putting you in the killer seat. Here
Right.
we go. Yeah.
I think
Right,
they would
and
have had
that's
two
the thing is,
guys
like-
show up with an anchor. They would have tied him to the anchor. Go to the
A
anchor
perfectly
room.
good fucking- One also, where the fuck do you get a spare small anchor on a cruiser like
A
that?
lifeboat,
That's what I was
but-
saying. Like,
Where do you get a small, like, is it a
Like,
symbol
it-
of
it-
your
a
resilience?
it
lifeboat.
must
Only
be a
way.
lifeboat. Yeah.
It was like a
Even
baby
then,
anchor.
fuck those guys in that
That's a
lifeboat.
lifeboat anchor?
Yeah.
That son of a bitch probably weighed more than all four of us combined. That's
Yeah.
saying something with me in the mix. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
That
straight
was
up
not a
bizarre.
lifeboat anchor. That was a fucking, like, a decent-sized anchor. Several tons. And they just threw it down with this one guy to send a message. Like, who are you sending a message to? There's one other aviator on here, and the rest of them are Japanese sailors.
Well, as far as we
They
know,
get
he's
the
still on that
message.
ship.
Well, right, exactly. Yeah, and it's just shit like that. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
It's because you can't behead someone in a PG-13 movie.
But
Well, that's a very good point.
but this also goes with my point.
Or
that
you
the-
can drown somebody.
at the very end of the movie, like it says that like this movie is dedicated to the Americans and Japanese. It's like what? Like
Imagine if they said that at the end of Come and See. You know,
right?
it's
Yeah,
like,
this movie's
we
dedicated to
reckon-
the Russians and the Germans. Yeah, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
right about the. What about the Chinese guys that were helping the Doolittle raid guys?
right.
What about them? Do they not matter? Because you made a big deal out of that. Like they slaughtered 250,000 Chinese in this particular instance, which is maybe true, but like it probably wasn't just because of the Doolittle raid. There was a little bit of a war going on on multiple fronts. And
They'd
so,
only been in China
to
for
say
a
that-
decade before that.
Where the number, it'd be interesting to see where they got that number from.
Wikipedia. I think-
what the hell
I
do
think
you
we're
look
in-
at?
I think we're in for an hour now. So yeah, we
Well,
can do that.
also,
and then-
also really quick while you're pulling that up, I'll just bring up the helmets for the Japanese sailors. Okay, not
Oh,
good.
yeah. I was gonna ask you, did the helmets line up?
No, some of them have.
There
Type
were
90.
there were no helmets for. Oh wait, no, there were a little bit of helmets for U.S., but not a lot.
they had the early style, the
Well,
Kelly
there
helmets.
were
Yeah.
there were some like so okay. They oh god.
Well, the
Okay,
islands on Midway had all the Kellys. I'm
yeah,
like, they
let's-
would
no,
they be
didn't. They
phasing
didn't
that
have
out by
Kellys.
that point?
They didn't. But let me okay, really quick.
You are the
Let's start
helmet
with the
expert,
Japanese
so,
helmets.
yeah.
Let's just start with the Japanese helmets, right?
Okay.
One, they had some Type 90s that were refurbished and whatever, wrong insignia on them, but like they had them, and then most of them were these civil defense helmets, like the fiberglass ones.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I get that, but if you're making a film this big with that much of a budget, you can't afford to get a bunch of fucking tire reissue fucking M90s, have some nerd like me repaint them and put you don't even have to have a correct liner in them. You just have to have something to keep it on their fucking heads. And you can't pay some nerd like me a couple $1,000 to like redo all these things and get them right to where you can wear them. And they're all Type 90s. You have to fucking use civil defense helmets that you also paid some lesser nerd. Yes, I'm going to say that. Some lesser nerd to paint them in a darker color than they actually fucking were on the Navy ships. And they're going to look like dog shit for nerds. Like, okay, I get that though. I get that. As far as the U.S. helmets, the Kelly helmets, no. They had M1917 helmets because you could tell by the black leather liner, and some of them had the later Kelly chin straps, but they all had the black leather liner. So they took shitty fucking repro M1917 helmets. They actually put the texture on them, which is fun. Again, a lesser caliber of nerd could do this with sawdust and fucking paint, like I have. But the liners were wrong, which doesn't, I guess, matter. But in the shots that they took, it does matter.
Because you can tell.
Because, yeah, you don't have the oilcloth in there. You had the fucking leather, the like raw leather fucking liner in the 1917 A1 Kelly helmet, right? And you also had the fucking canvas chin strap on all of them, right? That's what they've been wearing. It's accurate, okay? It's accurate, all right, but not quite, because you can go only so fucking far in your multi-million-dollar fucking budget for this goddamn film. Please, somebody pull up the budget for this goddamn film really quick while I'm ranting.
I got it.
And it's these little details like that it's just like, I look at that as a nerd, I'm like, if I would have had your fucking budget, that would have been a fucking 1917 A1 Kelly helmet, because it's correct, you got it right, and it would have been looking great, because there's only a few of them in the film. Perfect. That's only a couple $100 that we could take to fucking convert these things and get new liners, and then it'd be done. And look, they would look fantastic. And then the M1s.
Go off, Mike.
No, the M1s.
The wrong color too. They're not green enough.
$100 million, by the way.
Oh my! Are you horse fucking me?
No.
Our budget was
$100 million.
$100 million.
What did they profit? Please tell me that really quick.
50% of that went to the Jonas Brothers.
It went to the ensemble
Right.
cast.
Yeah,
right.
126.7 million.
Oh, so they made 26.7. Not good enough.
No, very much not.
That's not good.
It was super popular though. Like 58,000
I know,
reviews
because
on IMDb.
nobody's putting out good war movies anymore. They're all horse shit. They're all this.
Yep.
You know, and so okay, so you've got $100 million. You've got $100 million fucking dollars, right? Me as the costume designer, the fucking prop guy, and whatever. Hey, give me $1 million out of that 1%. I will make this look the fucking best that it's ever looked.
Yep.
The uniforms weren't terrible, but they weren't good. And so, but here's the thing: it was the helmet specifically. Is I didn't get a good look at the liners. I did see. Sorry, I'm burping. I did see. Yes, they had early M1s, and the color, like Brian said, was off. It was the later kind of olive.
Even post-war color,
green.
too dark.
Well, no. It was just green. It was too green.
Yeah.
It wasn't that early color
Olive.
like
Yeah.
Where the fuck is my original
Very
shell's over there. I
vivid,
don't-
very, very vivid green early war.
Yeah, no,
The
and so
sandy
the early
color.
one was like, yeah, and it was like, yeah, it was just not good.
It's OD319 if you want to get technical. Shade 8 was the
Yes.
later war color.
Right, and so, yeah, that was okay, and then like, or I mean, it wasn't okay, but it was like not the most egregious of failures that they did in their wardrobe department, but like the liners, I think I saw a Holly liner in there because I know I saw the Holly chin strap. I don't know if it might have been with a high pressure liner though, which is not good. But like little
They're
stupid
just
details
making
like
them now.
what?
They were just making high and low pressures came out in the summer of 42. So yeah, they
Yeah,
all
but
were Hollies.
the open buckle would not have been on those.
Good point.
I
Yep.
don't think, you know. And
For the three people that know what we're talking about.
Okay, but anyway, so I didn't notice the liner, so I can't really comment on that, you know, like accurately. But like, yeah, it's like, okay, hey, here's the cool thing too is most of the U.S. Navy throughout the entire Second World War had battleship gray painted fucking helmets. Let's just be real honest.
That's what I was thinking the whole time.
Right, they had battleship gray painted helmets. You can see it. I went to the USS North Carolina. Some of you guys have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've seen the stack of helmets they got in the back room that's just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
They're gray,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
gray. And the USS North Carolina served in the South Pacific very early on through the entirety of that operation.
Yep.
Well, interesting.
I'd argue
Interesting.
that the M1
And-
was so new that they didn't have time to put paint on them because they were brand new. Yes,
Okay,
by
and
later in the war, there's
that's a fair
17 coats of over rust because of the helmet. Because I have a few naval helmets as well, but this is really early.
Sure.
Like they probably just got fucking M1s.
That's a
You
fair
know?
argument.
Yeah.
That's a fair argument. However, yes, I'm not denying at all what you said. There are also 17A1s that are painted gray. They could have done it later. Blah de blah. Who knows? But also the Kriegsmarine in Europe at that point was also painting their helmets a lot battleship gray. Very early on. So it's like, well, okay, at least have one of them.
It would be nice to see one for sure.
Just one. But anyway, that's my rant about the helmets. And like for the Japanese wearing the civil defense helmets, yeah, I get they're cheaper, they're more available, blah 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 blah. Get reproduction type 90s, and it would look better than the fucking civil defense helmets. How about that?
I didn't pick up on the civil defense helmets till you brought it up, but now it's
I
glaring.
on the IMDFB, there's pictures of stuff. So Mike, when I pull them up just now, tell me which if you see them, the examples
Yep,
of that.
go for
There's
it.
pulling it
definitely
up right
some
now.
on there.
Share your goddamn screen, Nate.
I'm doing it. Let's see.
Let's do it.
There it is. So.
All right, 1911.
So-
That's another thing I wanted to comment on.
Okay,
Ryan,
hold on. For
Yeah,
people who want to jump in on this, if you're at your computer, it's IMDFB.
It's IMFDB.
Thank you. Sorry,
Internet Movie Firearms Database.
dyslexia kicked in. There we go.
Dude, I get it too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you can follow along with what we're talking about. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, IMFDB for Midway 2019.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
okay, another thing, Brian, I wanted to ask you because I did not think this was right at fucking all because it's been a thing since the First World War. But it could not be great. So, would aviators at this point not have the, whatever the fuck, the shoulder holster?
It's hard to say, but I will say that would be pretty rare for guys that have 1911s. They'd probably have like Smith & Wessons, 38s.
Sure,
That
exactly.
kind of
Okay,
thing,
revolver.
you know.
I'm just talking. Okay, for this, say they had a 1911. I've never seen
holsters
pictures.
were super common everywhere until probably the fall of 44. Because even tankers
Really?
didn't get hip holster or didn't get shoulder holsters unless they were custom made until late 44, early 45. It was a pretty rare thing. Now, naval is different, and I'm not totally versed on it. There's like this holy grail of books. They're like $150 each. There's 12 of them, and there's one on like naval stuff. If you want to, I forget the name of it, but like there's crazy shit on it. It's hard to say, but I would say that definitely they should have more revolvers because that was the thing. You know, you're going to be fighting sharks or you're going to shoot yourself. That's the two things.
Also, wearing a pistol belt, wearing a pistol belt with an ammunition pouch, which a lot of these guys were, for a pilot when you're already like very snug in there.
Well, the same thing with tankers. You know, people are like, you can't get in your hatch in a tank with a hip holster, and it's like, why did fucking like thousands of guys do it for most of their?
Your
Well, no,
boomer
you
hips
can,
can't
you
fit.
can,
in
You
like,
the
can,
tank,
yeah.
though, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I've been in an Avenger and I've been in some of these planes before, and they're fucking
You're
tight.
also skinny
I
as
totally,
fuck.
But even then they were fucking tight. Like to get
Right,
into a ball turret
that's
of an
what I'm saying
Avenger,
to the audience.
that's
Is like
hard.
Brian's pretty a pretty thin guy, right?
6'2", 160. Yeah, I'm fucking
Yeah,
bean
you're a
pole,
pretty thin
so-
guy, and you have a problem getting in a lot of these tanks.
Oh yeah.
And aircraft are even worse because it's like it's insane.
And there's so
And
many
so
sharp
I-
edges in planes compared to tanks. I don't know why.
Exactly.
but
That's the
so many
thing,
things
is
to hit yourself
Yep.
on.
And so that's the thing. I was wondering, like, would they actually at this point have pistol belts, an ammunition pouch with 2 extra magazines, and a flap holster if they were carrying a 1911? Would they actually go flying with that?
I'd
Naval
say
aviators.
probably that was the only option for a 1911 as a hip holster, unless you stick it. You know, like during the Battle of Britain, pilots got away from this because they used to stick their fucking pistols in their flight boots. You know, like that was the holster.
Okay.
That was the joke. You know, the joke then too was you're going to shoot the cabinet, you're going to shoot the canopy you can't open, you're going to shoot yourself. I mean, you really don't use a pistol a lot in a plane. If you bail out,
No,
like,
you use a pistol when you bail out and land, and
if you have
to
the
defend
chance,
yourself.
yeah, you know that's like, a lot of guys didn't
Yep.
carry shit because what's the point?
You're
Crash
saying
into the
video
ground,
games?
you know,
Are you
like-
saying video games lied to me and said I can't shoot down the other pilot with my 45?
No, there's not like a shotgun with like 150 rounds of fucking ammo in the back. You know,
Oh,
you have 6
you
rounds.
just burst my whole world right now.
Sorry,
So, Brian, in your opinion, is this realistic or no go?
I'd say it's realistic if you're carrying a 1911 because I don't think
Okay.
of any other options at this time. But
All right.
I don't think a lot of guys would have 1911s. You know, I mean, it's-
Right, fair enough. All
wasn't a
right,
thing.
we'll move on.
So, but good point. And also, a revolver is the most reliable pistol ever. Like, if you're going into a crazy environment like the South Pacific or the Pacific in general, like, wouldn't you want to have the most reliable gun ever made? Like, you know,
Yeah, we got 6 rounds, but hey,
it,
all that has to count
when
is
you-
one.
It's gonna work.
All that has to count as
that's-
one.
Yeah,
you know?
right. You know.
But anyway, so C96, yeah, yep.
In there for like a second, yeah.
I like how they're like
Exactly.
about to
Scenes.
kill him. Like they're about to go, and then the translator guy is like, "Wait a minute." And they're
Which
like,
is
"Oh, you're off.
bullshit.
You bombed the Japs." Like, you know,
Yeah,
half of
that
the
was
sentence.
that was
Yep.
fucking stupid too. Like, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to rant about that. Let's just go through IMFDB. There's the way dark fucking Kelly helmets. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Yeah.
Closer to a World War
Yeah.
One shade though, because I know they had some really dark 17s.
Yeah, they did. I actually have one that's pretty dark.
Mhm.
But like, yeah. Anyway, so that I can't remember the actual nomenclature for that, but the 50 cal, the water cooled 50 cal.
It's
That was
down
cool.
there. It goes
Yeah.
down. Yeah, it comes
Okay,
up
okay.
again. Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
address that later.
It's
then.
super cool though. I didn't know what it was until I looked up in here and I
Yeah,
realized
because I
it was
actually like
yeah.
that detail.
They
I
are
really
neat.
do.
Yeah. Well,
So,
in the
um,
Ford movie for Midway, there's a whole scene where a guy is just they're staring at his face as he's like fucking putting traces into some Jap bombers.
All right, the Type 2.
Totally
Why the fuck is there a
wrong.
Type
Yeah,
2?
Totally
right
wrong.
now?
that's I was gonna ask. Why isn't
Yep.
paratrooper rifles for like
That
an
gun
embassy?
came out in 42. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a Type
Fuck
2.
Or
They're
not,
cool,
or not an embassy, just
but-
guards
Oh,
in general.
nice.
They'd
The guy,
have- they
the
would
guy
have
on the right on the picture below has a civil defense helmet on. You can tell.
Yep.
This
yeah.
one right here. Okay.
Yep.
The
Okay.
flared rim.
I'll
Flares
follow
out.
up
That
here.
other guy on the left has a Type 90. Yep, that's a Type 90 on the left. The two guys on the left have a Type 90, and then the other guy on the
What
right
about this
has
guy
a
right
civil
here?
It looks like a Type 90. Yep.
Okay, so Type 90, going left to right, Type
Okay.
90, Type 90, Type 90, civil.
Yep.
And how can you tell?
Just
The
the
flare.
flare on that and the
Okay.
shape, and it's more round. It's not as
It comes straight
yeah.
down on the
Okay.
other ones.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Cone head.
That's a good way to put
Right.
it, actually.
You're right. It's not.
Yeah,
It's not as
he-
conehead.
He is
Okay,
very cone-headed.
Here's
is
another thing I'd
Army
like to talk
paratrooper
about.
rifle.
Yes, please. Yep. Here's another thing. So the Chinese at that point would not have had K98s.
I was wondering that because I immediately recognized them right when I
Yeah,
saw
when they
Standard
have
models,
when
what
they
they would've
have
had.
like check
Yes,
stuff. Yeah.
exactly. Because the Czechs made a shitload of VZ-24s for them, and they were bought in the late 30s, just like they sold to Romania and China and South America, but they rechambered them in 7mm. But so they would have had VZ-24s.
Or the Mauser standard model, too, that they sold. The A
Don't
and B
some
blocks.
of them?
Well, the FM model 24, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I
yes.
remember. Don't some of them have like the late war barrel bands too? Like,
Oh, I didn't catch that. The stamping?
I didn't catch it either. I didn't look close
Jamie,
enough. I was
click on the
just like,
photo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has like the late war.
Oh, yeah.
Those are
The-
all.
That doesn't.
Yep.
that
Yep.
doesn't
Those
have
are
the
all
H cut,
speed
yeah.
milled or stamped barrel bands, which are
Yep.
incorrect.
Yep, those are
They should be
mid
H
to late
bands.
war.
Mhm.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, anyway, they would have had VZ-24s. The Chinese Nationalist Army they purchased a shitload, and they were also using Gewehr 88s, the Hanyang rifles, and etc.
Every
So
Mauser
that-
but Candy 8, basically. 'cause
Those
it's brand
are
new.
actually
Basically,
the
yeah.
Hanyang stuff's very collectible now. I think
Yeah.
they didn't last.
Very
that long.
fascinating. They had a lot of.
Meaning
Yeah.
which means they could have easily put it in the movie.
Yeah, right.
right. And, here's the thing: is most of the Hanyang 88s, they're like wall hangers. You don't want to fire them now.
Yeah.
Because they got so fucked up through re-arseling or whatever, or their version of re-arseling. And so they could have easily put Hanyangs or VZ-24s in there. Another thing that I would have done personally, but I can only shit on them so much because they had to work with what they had to work with. Props mainly.
Yep.
So
Yeah, they only had $100 million or whatever.
Yeah, right.
100
million.
It's only 100
$100
million,
million.
Mike.
Tens of
It's only
hundreds
100
of millions of dollars. Yeah.
It's only $100 million. Yeah.
I could have outfitted those Chinese guys for fucking $1,000. I could have outfitted all of them.
I think you could have
Did
raised.
it for our movie.
You could
yeah.
have re-raised
Right.
Mao's army for $100 million.
Right.
You could have taken
Yeah,
over China
exactly.
again, taken over the film industry, and made a better Midway.
Oh man.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, here's the cool
The-
thing. The Browning M2 water cooled. So these were used a lot on Navy ships throughout the entire Second World War. High maintenance, but very effective with rapid sustained fire.
That
And
tombstone
cyclic
can's
fire.
wrong though. That was a very late war thing.
How the fuck do you know?
No,
this?
it wasn't.
Tombstones are
those
pretty
actually,
late.
How
no,
the
those
fuck?
were actually used.
Brian, how the fuck do you know
Huh?
this?
Okay,
Because
I
How do you
didn't hear
know?
what he said.
How do you know that the one fucking thing is wrong?
The tombstone, the ammunition canister.
Oh.
This?
No,
Yeah.
the can is not.
Oh.
wrong. That's actually no. They actually had
They were
those.
pretty- They were pretty late war. You see them in big numbers.
Okay,
I'm talking
can you
45.
actually? I'm not doubting you. Can you
Yeah.
can you go pull something up really quick and research that because
Sure.
I'm pretty sure
I
I've
know-
seen those at Pearl Harbor. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I could be mistaken. I'm pretty sure I've
99% of the
seen
time,
these.
it was the front opening 50 cal cans. I know this because I helped somebody restore an M16 half track.
Yeah,
and
and
he
that's
was
fine.
like,
I just want to know this
yeah.
right now. Like,
Sure.
I think they were also different than the M16 half track. drums,
Tombstone cans
by
are
the
all
way.
the same.
Or tombstone cans.
I seriously thought you said like this washer thing is wrong. I was gonna say
No,
you
no.
saw that in
No, no, no,
2.5
no.
seconds and knew that
Nope.
was wrong. I was like, you're
No,
insane.
No.
I just know
Yeah.
about the ammunition canister itself.
Okay.
So.
Okay, no, that's fine. Let's just get it straight as soon as we can, if we can. Because
They're really cool
I'm
though.
pretty
Like
sure-
they're spring mechanized and shit. But
I will
Yeah.
give him props. I've never seen that in a movie before.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Like that
Yeah.
was widely used for anti-aircraft purposes throughout the entire Second World War, because you could sit there and hammer on it. Because here's the thing with a regular M2, realistically every 500 rounds, that barrel gets fucking almost white hot, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to change the fucking barrel. With a water-cooled 50 caliber M2, it's 1,000 rounds you can get through if you're using it right. So it's like that was a huge advantage while you're shooting down airplanes, because you can't afford to have time to change the fucking barrel while you're trying to shoot down planes, because it's just the attack's not going to stop just because you have to change your fucking barrel. So, but and with infantry combat, like you've got other riflemen, you've got BAR gunners, light or medium machine and light machine gunners to help you out, so you can change the barrels. So, that's the whole thing. But yeah.
Brian, did you find the answer?
it's called the M45 can. But I'm gonna find the manual so that I can prove myself right. But yeah, no,
Nerd
it was a
off.
pretty late war thing. It could have been a thing that the Navy used first, but I know as far as the Army and stuff is concerned, you don't see it till the end of the war, like very, very, very late. It was.
Oh sure, yeah, because they were on the
90% of time
M16s. They were on the M16s eventually, but like, yeah, that's what. Again, I'm not like saying, oh, you're fucking wrong. I just want to know.
Oh, that's
like,
fine.
Because
Yeah.
I don't know. So.
Yep. The M45 can was produced from 1943 to the end of the war, according to this
43,
website.
so that'd be a year off.
Yep.
Huh.
Wrong.
They were
cool
just
as
using they were just
Yeah.
using the 100 round fucking regular cans.
Yeah, just the front opening. Or actually, at this point, it was the really early version, which was called the T19, which is like this big ammo box. Actually, fucking. I have
Is it the
somewhere.
wooden one?
No, it's not the wooden one. It's like a big. It looks like a toolbox, and most of them were actually used as toolboxes after the war. But it's just like
Right.
it holds 100 rounds,
Right.
and then they switched to the
Yeah.
Look
front
at that.
opening ones.
We're learning stuff.
Yay!
Yeah, well, that's the thing is,
Yeah.
nobody
I didn't
knows
know this.
everything.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, that was incorrect as far as we know. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Type 93 heavy machine gun. I know nothing about this actually.
I know
The Japanese
I know.
stuff.
Yeah, the Japanese stuff, like to me, until about 2 years ago, I didn't know jack, and at least I
Well-
recognized this. But if you asked me, like, "Hey, how's it work?" I'd be like, "I don't know."
The in the movie, a lot of the Japanese stuff, the anti-aircraft guns and stuff, look like a bunch of rusted ship boxes that the prop department put together. They
I mean,
did not
that
look
looks.
like-
I mean, that looks like a rusted ship box.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like I was watching. I was like, okay, the Japanese weapons in this movie look very.
Well, and also,
fake to
how
me.
the fuck is that secured to the fucking deck?
It looks
It's
like
just
it would be
standing there.
bolted. It looks like
It's
it'd be
on a
bolt-
fucking infantry tripod.
And did they actually
like-
have an AA gun on top of the conning tower?
That is
I-
an AA gun, and I guess it would be bolted down technically.
No, you just
Well,
stand it up. It's fine.
Dude, with that
you
tripod,
push into
dude,
it, you know. You got to be a man.
If you had that fucker bolted down, even that son of a bitch is gonna kick back with the force of Jesus Christ behind it, and like, it's like you're not gonna be able to fucking no. This what they had on there, the mount is bullshit. The gun, okay, maybe you made a replica. The mount is bullshit.
Yeah, it's a non-fire dude. Like there are parts in this movie to where it's like I know this wasn't CGI, but it looks like CGI. So like, who knows? That could be a CGI shot. For all I
Okay,
know.
see how this is straight metal.
Yeah.
Look at the. I'll pull it up here. Look at the fluted barrels on this.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So there's a prop. It's a prop,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the magazine's also straight on that fucker.
Yeah.
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 Probably
The
made
magazine's
out of
also
Oh my
straight, and
god!
it's-
I didn't realize that. That is straight.
Yep.
That
it's
is-
just
Yeah.
straight
It
also looks a
straight.
lot
So, yeah,
bigger,
They made a
too.
prop.
Yeah.
It's probably the same
They made a
dimensions,
prop.
because it's straight, it looks bigger. You know, like,
Right, yeah.
All right, the Browning M2 aircraft heavy machine gun. Okay.
That's the one that
hey, look at those planes.
it wasn't it the M2 that those guys on was it Okinawa that they like jerry rigged.
It was the
No,
one
no,
right
no.
below it.
You
It was on Iwo Jima, the Browning
The Iwo
A&M2
Jima.
Stinger. The guy took a Garand
Okay.
stock and he put it on a Stinger.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just fired a lot faster, and it's like, well,
I got the Medal of Honor.
good
yeah.
luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's why he
Yeah.
had to get ammunition 16 times. If you read his citation, it's like then he went back to the beach. Guess
Yeah.
what? On the way back to the beach,
So
he
basically,
got
you have
killed.
a fucking you have an MG42 that's underperforming. Basically,
Yeah,
is what
pretty much.
is what it
Yep.
is.
And the guns of Brownings, they're 1919s. They're not A&M2s, or at least the
Yeah,
muzzle
I
one
was gonna say that
Yep.
those look like
because they're
those are-
tapered. They like get
Yeah.
smaller.
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah.
Israeli ends, aren't they?
No.
308
Those
conversions,
those are the correct ends by the end of the
Okay.
war, but they
Okay.
they don't have the right orifice holes. So yes, they
But
are 308
actually,
percent.
this is early in the war, so
No, yeah, you're right. No, but they are World War II though. So
yeah.
So not good. Not good.
See, we get a lot of those POV shots that just makes me feel like I'm playing Medal of Honor: Rising Sun.
no, you literally,
Right.
yeah, you know.
Yeah, I'm just like.
What's the
fuck
problem
this,
with
I hate these
CGI?
POV
It's
shots.
like, is this Unreal Engine or is this like?
Yeah,
reality?
it looks like a cutscene. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just like it just takes me right out of. I hate those POV shots.
Type 92, no idea.
That's a great reference shot to whatever it is because it's not
That's
in that.
supposed to be the column at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Weird.
Battleship Row.
That must be that
Yeah.
shot of the ball gunner getting like destroyed and they just didn't put it on.
It's
that-
funny,
that
like,
one.
Dude,
Yeah.
like okay, the Japanese planes on Pearl Harbor, because I've actually researched Pearl Harbor quite a bit. They did not fly in giant clusters like that close or that low, at all.
And the
So
bombers
they would-
and the torpedo bombers showed up first. Like,
Yeah. But it's funny, like if you see photographs that are taken or like footage of Pearl Harbor on that day, it's like maybe you'll see one plane occasionally fly through.
Yeah, they're not that big clustered on there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
The
not.
flak
it's
was
not-
pretty insane. It didn't take too long for those guys to start shooting back.
Yeah,
And then
that's
shoot
the
back
thing,
for
is, like,
days after the fact.
People
because they
think
were
that.
so afraid.
I mean, the Americans did get caught with their pants down. Like, it is what it is. But like, once they started shooting back, it's like, uh-oh.
Well, that's the
You know?
big thing that they missed with this movie was that the Japanese were so pinnacle as far as or at the pinnacle of like technology and stuff with aircraft versus ships. Because at the end of the First World War, it was incredibly rare for a ship to get attacked by planes. Like I think it happened a handful of times. And in the 20s and the 30s, they were like, this is going to be the next, this is the next ship killer. And then guess what? First 6 months of Second World War, it happened. So, but that's like what happened with the HMS Repulse and the Duke of York, I forget, but the two really famous British cruisers that they're like, we're sending them to Singapore. And then, 150 Jap planes attacked them. Like there was no anti-aircraft batteries on these ships at all, really. Like, the best way to avoid bombs was for the coxswain just to basically yell maneuvers like constantly,
Yeah.
and just keep maneuvering the ship.
Yeah, what the funny thing about a lot of this with Midway or like even the movie Pearl Harbor, it doesn't show with the Japanese is that like yes they caught the Americans with their pants down, but like you say, like once it was like, oh, this is a legit battle, it's happening. Like the Japanese planned for I think a third, they planned for a third wave, and they were like, no, we're not doing it. They're like we've made our point. And,
Yeah, the carriers were more important than the target. And not to cut you off, but something I'm going to say it or forget it is it pissed me off because they said it in the fucking movie and it's totally wrong. They were like, "Whoa, they didn't hit the oil tanks or the dry dock."
Bullshit!
And that was not a target.
What was
That
the
was not
accent?
the target.
Was the accent necessary?
Oh, I don't know. But like that was not the objective. The objective was to knock the fleet out of the war. They flew
Right.
over that shit because they didn't care about it. And again, if you're a Japanese fighter pilot or a bomber pilot and you want prestige, you're gonna fucking get prestige by bombing a dry dock, which is more important, or bombing a fucking battleship. That's why, like, I think it was the Utah, or like one of them was the Oklahoma. It was a target ship, and like it was covered in armored plates to get shot at. And they saw the reflecting armored plates, and they were like, "It's a carrier." So like most of the fleet attacked that because they wanted the prestige of sinking a carrier. Like it was a lot of these guys are hot headed. That's the one good thing that like Top Gun got. Like these are hot-headed, guys that like want all the glory. So
right.
And with
Yeah,
Top
and,
Gun,
they-
I'm fucking out. After you,
What they
Mentality's the
should have
same,
shown, what they should have shown were how disappointed the Japanese were once they saw that the aircraft carriers weren't there.
yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
that's what they wanted. They wanted to take those out. And they were like, well, I guess we'll shoot these battleships.
That's when you get Yamato saying his famous line for the 50,000th time that he might have not said. It's like, we have awakened a giant.
Waking a
Piss you off,
sleeping
Nathan.
giant. Yeah. Oh my God, they said that in the movie Pearl Harbor, and they had to say it in this movie. Of
Tora,
course.
Pearl Harbor, Midway.
Right.
Like,
The movie should just be called A Sleeping Giant. I mean, they should just make the movie that's called that, already.
yeah, it would make more sense than Midway. Like,
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, Roland Emmerich's The Sleeping Giant.
Yeah,
All right, so we had Type 97 aircraft, machine guns, Type 99 cannons. Just gonna speed it along here because it's a lot of
Pew,
Navy
pew, pew.
guns mainly.
No one gives a shit about those.
Yeah.
Those are the 1.1s were cool though. They were called the Chicago Pianos. That was the nickname during the war, and they were really shitty. That was before the Bofors gun.
Yeah, I talked to a few Navy vets and they hated those fucking things.
And it was cool how you see how shitty the sights were too, like
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
gunners.
yeah.
That was kind of a neat thing.
I have never heard of this thing.
Orlicon?
That was Pearl Harbor. I never.
You've never heard of the Oerlikon?
No.
Super common.
It's the
My
Oerlikon,
grandfather was
dude.
on one.
It's the Oerlikon.
They're
Oerlikon.
pneumatically
Okay, whatever.
controlled.
But
Pneumatically recoiled.
I've seen those things. I mean, those were put on boats all the time.
No. I never. I probably have seen it, but I just never put two and two together.
We sent a shitload of those to the Afghans in the Mujahideen at that point, which became the Taliban. We sent a shitload of those to the Afghans in the 80s, and they shot down a fuckload of Russian
Isn't that what
helicopters.
Rambo uses in Rambo 3?
I don't
know,
remember.
But the interesting thing about those is that they were also used by the Germans. They were used by the Americans and the Germans. So you see them on Kriegsmarine boats also.
It was a pretty common design, I think, from the 30s, and it worked really well.
I did a drawing actually of a guy's father who was at Omaha Beach aboard an LST who fired the Oerlikon, the Oerlikon, and I had to do a giant drawing of it. So I've studied that gun pretty well.
They're pretty
That
cool.
might-
looking.
It's a really effective gun.
That might be what I'm confused. Maybe I just didn't. I probably just didn't recognize it by the name. But as I scrolled down, as you said, what they're on Navy boats. I'm like, oh right, I've seen those a bunch.
They were very common.
Yeah, I've never known the name. I just know they're the big fucking thing on the ship.
The drum mags are cool with them too. My grandfather was on an LST in the Pacific, and he shot a zero down at Okinawa during the massive wave attacks at the end of World War I. So
Nice.
yeah,
I've seen a video. A guy has one that he takes to ranges. He's restored it. And
That's
it's like.
oh, they're
Oh,
crazy.
dude.
Yep.
They literally
This
have a
dude-
pneumatic line that connects to the recoil. It's fucking crazy.
This dude, there's
Yeah.
not a great picture of him, but he makes the greatest concentration face in the history of the world. Yeah, Mike's got it perfect. And
One
he's
of the gunners
repeat-
on Roy
he's-
Namor, by the
He's
way.
he's repeatedly in this movie for multiple shots on multiple ships. It's the same
Yeah.
guy going.
Yeah.
Which is
I think he's a CGI render that's been put in the movie.
Maybe. Or else he's just a supreme badass that served on multiple ships and
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
campaigns.
If you've seen the Yamato movie too, that's just a play in that because half that movie is guys making faces as their ship gets pummeled by fucking American planes, and they're just
And that's it. And a lot of Navy guns, mainly big fucking
well,
things that we
being a
don't
naval
have.
battle. I think that,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Right.
Those
Yeah.
Japanese, particularly those Japanese Type 96 25 millimeter cannon, those look terrible. Those props. I mean, I could tell that they just constructed those as like they just look bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I've seen that though in war movies throughout the decades, to where like they'll have Japanese stuff, and it's like they just took fucking sheet metal and welded it together. I mean, like, I don't think I've ever seen Japanese equipment really depicted very well ever.
Hey, look, I made a Type 200. You know, like,
it's a fucking It's like what's that French machine gun from World War One?
Hotchkiss?
The Hotchkiss. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always like a Hotchkiss that has like that's dressed up to look like a Japanese gun or something.
50 cals. They turn them into everything. You know,
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Dishkas and shit and-
they'll dress up the 50 cal.
All I'll say is Call of Duty World at War lied to me, and that every Japanese person had a Type 100.
Yeah, the submachine gun.
Yeah,
Is
apparently.
that submachine gun?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
you mean the super rare Type 100 that they barely made any of? Yeah, all right, yeah.
I missed that on a parts kit from a guy that brought one back from Okinawa and chopped it up. in
Hey,
his garage.
that's better. That's at least better than Battlefield 1942, where the Japanese are armed with Bergmans.
Oh, yeah.
Submachine guns. Yeah,
taking me back.
Have you ever? Yeah.
Hey, Mike, if you're gonna start knocking Battlefield 1942, I'm done.
Dude, I played the shit out of Battlefield 1942.
Fuck yeah, so
I'm
did
just
I.
saying. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, we're the Japanese. I'm gonna get the Sturmgewehr.
They had that
so
realistic
it's-
mod
Yeah.
for it too. I forget. Fucking Forgotten Hope or something. That game was crazy.
So I was a console player until about 8 years ago, so all the old school PC stuff I missed out on.
Dude, I have the demo
Yeah,
disc
it's
from
'cause
Call
you're
of
a
Duty.
douche.
PC Gamer 2003.
Oh yeah, dude. So I don't have the demo disc. I used to have. I bought the game. I also bought Day of Defeat on disc, right before
Oh, wow.
Steam was a thing. So I was playing on WAN, Yep. And it was like, okay, you have to get Steam to play this game, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do that. And I did. I'm like, wait a second, I get Counter Strike, Ricochet, Half Life. What are these games?
Lucky dog.
Oh yeah, it was that was the beginning of the fucking end.
See, this is how fucking retarded this movie is. It's making us just talk
about video games. Yeah.
It's so rambling
Yeah.
and incongruent that we just are rambling and incongruent as well because it just it bleeds over.
The narrative is all over the place. So
Literally.
I hope Woody Harrelson made a lot of money. So
for 100,
Yes.
he actually wasn't that bad in this, honestly.
He was
I
one
like
of
Woody
the
Harrelson.
least egregious people in this film. I will say.
Yeah, because he's great. But there were, again, like I said, there were good actors that were just shit because they had nothing to work with.
Yeah.
And
like the guy
and all the. Go ahead.
Like the guy that hits his head, and pushes his plane into the sea. Like he's in a lot of good stuff. He was in the
Darren Criss.
Yeah, he was in the Assassination of Gianni Versace and stuff. And
he was really good in that.
Dude, he
I've
was
seen
so
that.
fucking good in that.
Who the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm
That's-
on the
it's
same
a-
page.
it's-
Don't worry about it.
That's what series is that? Because they made it.
No. What character are you talking about? Because I literally, you keep saying the guy who hit his head. I have no.
The guy that
fucking
on the
blood trickling down.
way to Midway, he crashes his plane and he hits his head.
Well,
and his
it's
plane
when
gets
he
destroyed.
He's the guy when he dies. He just kind of closes his eyes once his plane hit the
the
He's
rival.
got a bandaged head and they're like, you can't fly,
the,
but
the rival lieutenant guy.
Yeah,
But the fucking the way this movie is, the directing's so bad, the cinematography is so awful. You can't differentiate who is who.
I
we
thought
don't even know.
Well,
We don't even know.
because I forget that he hurt his head. He did hurt his head, but it was underneath his.
Right.
His
Yeah,
that
you
was-
can barely
his
see
stuff.
the bandage.
Right.
Dude,
I recognize him as the guy who hurt his back. Because he says my back feels like it got crushed by a tractor. That if you had
What
said
injury
that,
do
then
you
I wouldn't know
remember?
who he was
You know,
talking about.
like-
Yeah.
But dude, but when I was watching it, I was just like, is that Andrew Cunanan? That's what I was. From the assassination of Gianni Versace.
Yeah.
And I looked up. I was like, oh, that is. I loved him in that. But then I was watching this. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm sorry.
It was cool though. I mean, I do like the idea of an all-star cast when it goes well. I mean, if you look at like A Bridge Too Far or Longest Day, like back in the day, like those weren't executed the best, but it is cool to have like these really famous people with small bits.
They also acted well.
Well, it's different, yeah, but I like the
most of them
idea.
acted very well.
Yeah.
Dude, Anthony Hopkins did a very good job at like portraying like how the 6th Airborne was just completely fucked, and he knew that.
I could
he's
talk
like-
for 17 hours about A Bridge Too Far.
Well, maybe we should make that be one because I am going to tell you a secret.
Okay, well that movie is about 17 hours long, so
You just
I mean,
You're telling us a
You
secret.
you interrupted my secret.
sorry.
you
go
just-
ahead.
Yeah, but you also waited an uncomfortably long time to.
I did.
"We have a secret." We're all
well
like,
because I
okay.
was waiting for someone to go. And yes.
We don't care.
And yes.
All right, touche. Fine. You know what, Mike A, you mute your speakers, and I'll tell them since you don't fucking care. Okay.
Okay, fine,
All right,
I'm outta here.
Okay.
No, I'm
Okay.
just
Fine. Yeah. I've never seen
What's your
I've
secret?
never seen A Bridge Too Far.
Wow.
Okay, then we have to do it. We have to do it.
It's a great movie.
Okay.
It is very long.
I've
would-
seen
I would-
clips. I've seen
would-
clips. I know what happens in it, everything, but I've never watched it from
you
start
don't.
to
We
finish.
haven't the facilities
to take you all prisoner. Oh, it's so good.
Well, I hope you have 10 hours to spare.
Well, fucking Mikey, if you don't want to watch it a second time or a third time or a 10th time, by all means. But hey, I actually have that fucker downloaded in a totally legal and straight on the up and up manner for all those that are listening.
From
that know a little
LimeWire.
bit.
Nice recovery there.
Yeah, and but no, I actually have that because it's like it's one of those that I remember from when I was a kid and I watched it like a year or two ago, and I was like, well, this isn't actually that terrible. So you should definitely. There are some things we can discuss for sure, but like
Book is
It's
great.
way more loose with it's written by it's based on a book by Cornelius Ryan, just like The Longest Day.
Mhm.
It's not as factual as like The Longest Day is, where
Right.
like the movie it's more conjecture. Like sometimes it has characters in it who are based on people. It
Right,
doesn't
right,
actually
right.
like
Yeah.
use their real names.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And yeah,
But
so
yeah,
it's a little
it's worth the watch. We should put it on our list. How about that? Let's just put it on our list.
okay.
That
Cool.
works.
For
yeah.
sure. Yep. Again,
So,
this,
yeah,
this
'cause-
movie is so trash that we have to talk about other movies to fill the time.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. So
So, yes, we will now start the reviewing phase. So, I mean, as a whole, it's a war movie. I mean, you can't get around that. It's a very meandering movie. It's got some cool things in it. It's got a lot of not cool things in it. I mean, it's like walking to a grocery store and picking shit out and being like, "This is what I'm going to make for dinner," and none of it works. But I mean, yeah. I mean, in my notes I wrote boring with no focus. I mean,
That's it.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. I mean, that's at the end of the day. I mean, it's not the best movie. It's not the worst movie. It is entertaining, and a lot of people have watched it and liked it. I mean,
A lot of
it has
people
a
are stupid too.
Very true. A broken clock's right twice a day. But like, you have to see something for that. If there's 75,000 fucking reviews on IMDb, like it has to be entertaining at the very least. So but that's what I give it. A 6.5 out of 10. So
Mike B groaned so hard.
Do you want to go, Mike, or do you want me to go?
who gets the talking
to
pillow?
counter what Brian said about it being a war movie, I would disagree, and I would say it's an action movie because it was solely focused on the action, and albeit entertaining, and there's 75,000 reviews and blah blah blah, and people like that. To quote very loosely, because I'm gonna probably fuck this up, but George Carlin is, think of the dumbest person you know, and then think that there's half of the population that's dumber than they are. Okay. So that's that. It's entertaining, sure it could be, and I totally probably botched that quote. It's close enough, though. You guys get the idea. Fuck you guys. So with that, it totally missed its mark on the acting, the writing especially. My God, the writing was awful. The CGI was okay, and like if you're gonna spend that much money on CGI,
60-40. 60-40. I would say 60% of it was good, 40% was shit.
Yeah, I'll get to that. And yeah, okay, CGI, yeah, okay. Some good parts, some not great at all. A lot of it wasn't great. Yeah, I wish there was a lot more character development, and you can do that in a film like this. You can do that without taking too much time. You could have taken a lot less time on like the dumb shit, like fucking, explaining the war room strategy and all that shit and whatnot. You could have actually like given some character development, and then again on the women that were involved, which is a good point. It's like, yeah, they're all dating the same woman, or they're all married to the same woman. It's like, nah, women are different. They're people. They're not all gonna just be the same, like whatever, okay, agreeable, blah blah. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but like overall entertainment value, I guess. Even as entertainment value, whatever. I'm actually give this a fucking 3.5 out of 10
Damn.
because it's 2019. It's 2019. You guys have the fucking resources. It should have been a lot better than this because you also did not portray the battle as titled, right? As titled, you tried to go over Pearl Harbor and give way too much context in a shitty way, and the Battle of Midway, you did it in like a half hour. Not good.
Not good.
Not good. It's like you should have spent a half hour maybe leading up to that, whatever, and then done the rest of it on the Battle of Midway. But that failed, and again, the acting was not good, and the writing was horse shit. And so yeah, 3.5 out of 10.
It's because they used the wrong helmets. Is that it?
Oh no! Don't even get me started on that shit. Like
That is a blade of grass.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Like that doesn't really like make or kill it, because I could have raked a few movies that we've reviewed in the past. I could have raked them over the coals for little details
Right?
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Not gonna do that anymore. It's like, I'll point it out, but I'm not going to actually factor that into judging unless it's egregiously fucking retarded. No, they got M90 helmets in there. They tried, but like whatever. So I'm not gonna. That's not factoring in. It was just the overall acting, writing, delivery, and just the whole fucking the whole film in itself. Like, yeah.
Shit
So,
sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Well, and that's talking about people who are, entertained by this. I mean, yeah, every once in a while, I like fast food as well. I like
Yep.
I like chewing gum sometimes. I like things that I'm going to ingest and shit out and never think about again. Occasionally, but the thing is, that's not going to stay with me. And but that's people who I think give this like solid reviews. That's really what they're looking for. It's like, oh yeah, it was fun and entertaining. I was entertained by that shit, and it's like, okay, whatever. But no, I think I said all I wanted to say. Yeah, it's a big clusterfuck of of stuff that's just it's a true story, but the way it's done is just so poorly done. I was baffled at times by it. The only entertaining thing I think, might be Dennis Quaid with his gruffness, sounding like he's choking on a dead rat for most of the movie. But
He's got shingles. You can't.
Yeah,
fault
yeah.
him.
Come on, Mike. He's got shingles. What's wrong with you?
it was humorous. But anyway,
Boomer disease.
yeah.
Shingles.
But anyway, I was laughing at that stuff. But no, I was actually laughing at a lot of the stuff that was supposed to be serious, like the part when he gets up and they do the toast to his dead comrade and stuff like that. It was like, these are retired tropes, man. Do them differently. If this is real stuff that actually did happen, mix it up. Try to find new ways to present this stuff that says something completely different. That's not just this, schlock. It's just schlock. It's campy. The movie has no balls. It has no teeth, like I've said. There's nothing edgy about it. There's nothing. The danger doesn't seem real at all. Yeah, big missed opportunity. $100 million just pissed into the wind.
But with a $26 million gain, though.
Well, I hope it all went. I hope it all went to Woody Harrelson.
So what's your rating?
What's your rating?
0.1 out of 10.
Jesus Christ.
I know where this is going.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian, do you want to? I always seem to close. Why don't you go?
Oh, I already went. So.
Oh fuck! You keep lagging in and out. Yeah, I've lost it all. So. No,
It's
did
your
he?
turn,
What was the
Nate.
rating he gave it?
I started, you motherfucker.
6.
What rating did you
He's
give
at
it?
6.
6.5.
A what?
6.5. 6.5.
6.5.
6.5. No,
Yeah.
I would give it like a 1 or maybe a 1.5.
No, you can keep your .001. That's fine.
Okay.
All right.
I was flabbergasted.
I swear to God, Mike A, if you pick up that mic again like a game show host, I'm gonna keel haul you.
Oh, sorry. You didn't tell me not to.
What am I gonna do? Interrupt you?
I won't for now.
No, it's fine. I should be able to clean that up fine. Let's see. Everything that has been said is been stated already. I agree with all of it. The stereotypical trope of a war movie was very much beaten into the ground and then buried. Again, I guess I'll end it the same way I started it. It is a very good entertainment movie. It's a very good movie for that. It is not a war movie like Mike B said. I do agree with that. It's just not. It's an action movie in a World War II theme. It's not a war movie to me. There are some great things they did really, really well with things that we've never seen before in the style that they did the whole film, and that is something to applaud them for. But man, it just was really, really, really bad. But the saving grace of it, it's not fucking Pearl Harbor. So
that gets into the negatives.
and it's exactly like Pearl Harbor, just with maybe an added extension.
It's like
we said
Compton
before.
saying, but wait, we're not Detroit. It's okay.
Right, yeah. So it's not Pearl Harbor. So 5. Screaming Mel Gibson's out of 10. I think that's the lowest I've ever rated anything. I will say this, though. I could put that on in the background and do something and still be entertained. It's not reaching the Mike B levels of Wind Talkers and the Pearl Harbors of me. So that's why it gets a 5.
Yeah,
No, that's fine.
It's noise. Yeah, it's noise.
Yeah. And you know what? It sucks because I know some poor lab full of CG artists that put their heart into that.
Oh yeah.
It just got butchered, you know. It's like, and that's the thing I feel for is for those guys.
They got paid.
True. I mean, you get paid, but
But it's about their work. Yeah.
it's still
know,
blood,
I know.
sweat, and tears. And when it comes out, maybe not what you wanted.
No, that's-
I felt that pain, so I could totally feel that.
I understand too. Like that's when I watch the making of like Attack of the Clones, and I see all of these CGI artists like, slaving in front of the computer and getting cancer from the monitors that they sit in front of, for 24 hours every day, and George Lucas coming in and like wanting them to tweak all this stuff that takes 24 hours to do, and it just there you go, yeah. It is sad. So I do feel for those people, but at least a lot of people got to see it, so they got to see their work that they put in, because this is a major movie, so they got paid, everyone got to see what they did. Unfortunately, it's not very good.
And on that bombshell, so tallying our scores, this is the lowest ranking film we've done so far with a 3.62525 rating. And the other reason I have decimals is because of Mike's very low estimation. But it's a take on the battle that, if you want to watch noise or something, or if you're on a plane and there's no other movie.
This is a very good plane movie.
You don't have a
This
book.
is a very good plane movie.
If you're one of those people who has to sleep with a fan on, you can put this on instead of the fan. It's white noise.
Exactly. Yep. If you need to put noise on, this is it. Or if you want to watch the clips on YouTube, you can see the whole movie and then not have to waste 2.5 hours of your life. Thanks for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a rating. Otherwise, Mel Gibson won't stop screaming. If you like this content, make sure to check out our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. If you want to directly support our work, make sure to check out our Patreon. All these links are in the description below. Until the next time, Scuttlebutt out.